Hi guys, this is Sia Jane and welcome back to my channel ACCA and Beyond. So in the previous video we had started with the revision of chapter number 6, which is planning. So let's just continue with that. The purpose of monitoring reviews. The aim is to assess whether the firm's policies and procedures were properly applied during the audit. It also helps identify any deficiencies in the audit process. These reviews are conducted after the auditor's report has been signed. They involve examining a selection of completed audit files. This review is usually carried out by a compliance or quality team, an independent partner, or an external consultant. Now, what is checked during these reviews? Working papers should clearly show that sufficient appropriate audit evidence was obtained. They should also confirm that all issues were properly resolved before the audit report was issued. In addition, all working papers must be properly maintained. This means they should be complete, filed, signed off, and show evidence of review. Now, the outcomes of the review. A report is prepared and shared with the partners of the firm. This report highlights any deficiencies and recommends corrective actions. These actions may include communicating findings, conducting additional reviews, providing training, or updating firm policies. In serious cases, disciplinary actions may also be required. Finally, from an exam perspective, you only need a basic awareness of these quality management processes. A detailed knowledge of ISQMs is not required, but understanding engagement quality reviews and safeguards is still useful. Okay, so let's move on to audit documentation. ISA 230 requires auditors to prepare and retain proper audit documentation. The main purpose is to provide evidence supporting the auditor's report. It also shows that the audit was planned and performed in accordance with the ISAs and relevant laws and regulations. In addition, audit documentation has several practical uses. It helps audit team plan and perform the audit effectively. It also supports supervision, allowing senior members to direct, review, and monitor the work. Documentation ensures accountability as it records the work performed by the audit team. It also provides a record of important matters that may be relevant for future audits. Further, it supports quality reviews and monitoring within the firm. It also allows external inspections to assess the quality of the audit. Now, form and content of the audit documentation. The documentation must be clear and detailed enough for an experienced auditor with no prior involvement to understand the audit. These include understanding the nature, timing, and extent of procedures performed. It also shows the result of those procedures and the evidence obtained. Finally, it must include significant matters identified during the audit and conclusions reached. About retention of working periods papers. All audit documentation is kept in an audit file. This file must be completed on a timely basis after the audit report is signed. Typically, this should be done within 60 days of the auditor's report date. Once completed, the audit file must be securely retained. The retention period depends on national regulations but is usually around 5 years from the date of the auditor's report. This ensures that documentation is available for future reference, inspections, or legal purposes. Uh, I'm going to skip this and move on. Okay, now types of audit documentation. Audit documentation includes a wide range of records created during the audit. This starts with planning documentation, such as the overall audit strategy and the detailed audit plan. It also includes audit programs, which outline the procedures to be performed. There will also be a summary of significant matters identified during the audit. Other key documents include written representations from management, checklist, correspondence, copies of client records. Now, looking at the audit files, for large audits, information is often split into permanent and current file. Uh, the permanent audit file contains information that is relevant for multiple years. This includes details like management and governance structure, system information, and background about the client and its industry. It may also include important legal documents such as contracts, agreements, and title deeds. Now, about the current file. This contains information specific to a particular audit period. It is usually divided into two sections such as planning and performance and completions. Sorry, three sections. I mistake. Uh, okay, let's talk about planning now. So the main element in the planning is the audit planning memorandum or APM. APM. This is basically the written audit plan that every member of the audit team reads before starting the audit. It sets a direction for the entire audit. Now, what does it include? First, background information about the client, including recent performance. This helps the auditor understand the business and identify anything unusual. Then, changes since last year's audit, especially important for recurring clients because changes often create new risk. We also include key accounting policies and important laws and regulations so the auditor knows the rules the company is following. Next is the trial balance or draft financial statements, which form the base of the audit. Then we perform preliminary audit procedures, analytical procedures. This helps identify unusual trends or fluctuations early on. One of the most important part is key audit risk. This is where the auditor highlights areas which are with the higher chance of misstatements. Based on this, the auditor develops the overall audit strategy and sets materiality, which determines what is considered significant. Finally, APM includes practical aspects um, like the timetable, deadline, staffing, and budget, and even locations to be visited. So everything is properly planned before the target or before the audit begins. Now moving on to performance stage. This is where the actual audit work is done and documented through working papers. First, we have the lead schedule. This shows the total figures and must agree directly to the financial statements, so it acts as a summary. Then we have the backup schedules, which provide detailed breakdowns of those totals. So basically, they support and explain the numbers of the lead schedule. This document clearly shows the objectives of being tested, the work completed, how samples were selected, conclusions drawn, and who did the work, date the work was completed, and by whom it was reviewed and supported. Now, moving on to the completion stage. Now, also known as the review stage of the audit. This is basically where the auditor wraps up the audit and makes sure everything has been properly checked before forming an opinion. There are a number of standard procedures performed here. First, the going concern review. The auditor possesses whether the business will continue operating in the foreseeable future. Then we have the subsequent events review, where events occurring after the reporting date are checked to see if they impact the financial statements. Next are the final analytical procedures. These are performed at the end to ensure that the financial statement overall makes sense and are consistent. The auditor also completes an accounting standards disclosure checklist to confirm that all required disclosures have been properly concluded. Another key element is obtaining written representations from management, uh, where management confirms certain matters and takes responsibility for the financial statements. Then the auditor prepares a summary of adjustment made since the trial balance as well as summary of unadjusted misstatements. This helps in evaluating whether the financial statements are materially misstated. After that, draft financial statements are finalized along with draft report to those charged with governance and the management letter, which highlights weakness and recommendations. So overall, the completion stage ensures that all audit work is finalized, reviewed, and supports the auditor's final opinion. Now, about the security of working papers. An important question: who owns the working papers? The auditor owns the working papers, not the client. This is important for a couple of reasons. First, it means the access is controlled by the auditor, which helps maintain independence. The client cannot freely access or alter audit documentation. Second, even when client generated documents are included in the working papers, the auditor must be careful because once included, they become part of the auditor's records and must be kept secure and confidential. So, overall, ownership and control of working papers is essential to produce auditor independence and ensure proper confidentiality. Uh, Now, about security. Working papers must always be kept secure. This is mainly because audit evidence contains confidential and sensitive information. If files are lost or stolen, the auditor's duty of confidentiality is breached, which can seriously damage professional reputation. Another reason is cost. Audits are expensive and time consuming. So, if working papers are lost, the auditor may have to re-perform the audit work, leading to additional costs and efforts. There's also a risk of fraud or manipulation. In some cases, dishonest clients have altered audit working papers to hide fraud, so maintaining security is critical. Now, with IT-based audit systems, the risk increases further. For example, laptop can be easily stolen even if the thief is not interested in the data, but this still leads to confidentiality issues and the need to redo work. Also, with electronic files, it is harder to verify who created or modified documents, unlike manual files where handwriting and signatures provide evidence. This makes tampering more difficult to detect. Because all of these risks, certain precautions must be taken. If working papers are left at the client's premises, they should be securely locked away or otherwise taken from the audit team. If left in a car, they should be treated like valuable items and properly secured. And for IT systems, auditors must use password protection, encryption, and regular backups to ensure data security. So, overall, maintaining the security of the working papers is essential to protect confidentiality and prevent fraud and error and any unnecessary cost. So, with this, we have completed chapter number 6 for audit and assurance. I really hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more such videos.